This episode is brought to you by TerraSlate. What if the paper you use every day could survive a hurricane? What if you could print it through any laser printer and write on it with a basic ballpoint pen and it would still be waterproof? Let me introduce you to TerraSlate Waterproof Paper, used and trusted by the NFL, the U.S. military, and Michelin-starred restaurants to survive in the harshest conditions. It prints through any standard laser printer and never rips, peels, frays, or smudges. If your notes, maps, menus, or fieldwork matter, use TerraSlate waterproof paper and you'll never laminate again. Visit TerraSlate.com and order a sample pack today. Welcome to the Love in Action podcast. I'm your host, executive coach, speaker, and author, Marcel Schwantes. I believe that when we show up with our full humanity to work and lead from a place of love, joy, purpose, care, and inclusion, it's going to make a radical difference in your leadership, your business, and your bottom line. This is a show about actionable, practical love, the verb, as a leadership and business strategy. Let's get rolling. Hey guys, welcome back. Glad you're here. I want to dive right into this one. Okay, I'm bringing back to this show neuroscientist Paul Zak, one of the most fascinating people you'll ever encounter and one of the nicest as well. Paul has written many books. The one that recently came across my desk is The Little Book of Happiness, a scientific approach to living better. And it is a fast read, only 114 pages. And we're going to answer the existential question, what makes us happy? Because when you're faced with questions like that, hey, you can't mess around by asking the wrong people, right? So we need someone like a Paul Zak who has done the research. He has his own science lab. He's known globally for his studies on oxytocin and developing trust. By the way, we're going to get into that as well. And what got me really curious about the Little Book of Happiness, by the way, there it is, if you're watching on YouTube, okay, is that Paul describes these 45 what he calls cardinal virtues that lead to our happiness. But not only that, he shows us how they affect the brain, and he provides scientifically sound practices for developing these virtues to increase our happiness. Okay. So, and by the way, you'll think this is kind of cool. Stick around because Paul is going to share how you can start your journey toward building a life of happiness by getting access to a free app that you can use to personally track your progress toward the pursuit of your own happiness. He's going to explain all about that. So stay tuned. Okay, a more proper introduction to Dr. Paul Zak. He is a distinguished university professor at Claremont Graduate University. His research has taken him from the Pentagon to Fortune 50 boardrooms, to the rainforest of Papua New Guinea. He is ranked in the top 0.3% of the most cited scientists with over 200 published research articles. His lab and company, Immersion Neuroscience, helps people live longer, happier, and healthier lives. Dr. Paul J. Zak now joins us. So awesome to have you back on the show. Welcome.
So good to see you, Marcel. Fun to be back. We're going to have a good time.
Yes, we are. All right. So a second go round for those listeners that are just now being introduced to you. Here we go. What's your story?
What is my story? I might be a Martian. You never know. I've been really trying to figure out this very interesting species called humans, quite different than most other animals. And I do that by running experiments where I measure brain activity and help people make decisions. So I think decisions are a great way to look at the variety of the human experience. So Marcel, you like chocolate ice cream, I like vanilla. Why is that? If you ask people, they're like, I just like it. But if you measure brain activity, you actually can see how people respond to different environments. That depends on your genetics, your childhood history, but all that is quantified into how the brain values the experiences you're having, which motivates our behavior. So in my lab, we've developed, as you've said, technologies and new knowledge that ultimately help people live longer, happier, healthier lives. What else should I do with my life other than doing that?
Yeah, yeah. So this little book and that you published, the little book of happiness. I know this book has its own backstory. Okay, so I want to actually have you set the table and to get us going in the right direction, really about the research and how and what you found that led to this book.
So recent research out of Oxford University showed that about 50% of people's happiness is due to having a rich social network. I'm putting air quotes in.
Yeah.
What's a rich social network mean? How many people are, in my phone? How many people I email a day? So if that is going to be actionable, it's got to be measurable.
Yeah.
So what we've done over the last 15 years or so, with the support from U.S. taxpayers for reasons that we can talk about, we identified how the brain values social emotional experiences. What is valued is what is acted on and remembered. And we use that information to quantify how much social emotional value your brain needs to thrive. So I think we've been so worried about avoiding mental health crises that we haven't looked at the upside. Hey, what do I do so that I can really thrive? I'm in the world. I'm engaged. I'm doing things. I'm talking to people, right? I'm getting up. I'm jumping out of bed in the morning. Like, how do we do that? And so most of the leverage of the 5 pillars of thriving, which are diet, exercise, sleep, a rich social network, and having a sense of purpose. The first 3 are easy. Diet, exercise, sleep, that's table stakes. You got to do
Sure.
that. Everyone knows it. Now, the leverage is in the social connection part, right? If you are lonely, if you are depressed, well, you don't sleep well, you don't eat well, you don't exercise. And so if I want to guide people to thriving, we've really got to have not only a goal on how we establish high levels of thriving. What's it mean to thrive? For me personally, it's going to be different for you and different for me, but our brains are doing the same calculation first. And then second, what the hell do I do? So the little book of happiness is just a playbook that you use over the course of 6, 7 months that gives you exercises, scientifically based exercises to improve the social connections in your life.
That's great, and we're going to get into all of those how to add to the richness of your own social network. We'll do that after this quick message. Hang tight. This episode is made possible by today's sponsor, TerraSlate. Ever lost a critical handwritten note or a printed document to rain, mud, or time itself? Hate using non-recyclable laminating sheets? TerraSlate Waterproof Paper is built to fix all that permanently. It's waterproof, rip-proof, and virtually indestructible. TerraSlate is recyclable, easy to print on with any laser printer, and can be written on with a basic ballpoint pen. The company's focus on sustainability is evident to its core. The company is powered by 100% renewable energy and was recently named a Denver Broncos small business partner. From ocean dives to mountain summit, TerraSlate is trusted by the NFL, the U.S. military, and Michelin-starred restaurants to perform when nothing else does. If firefighters, engineers, students, and creatives trust TerraSlate in the toughest conditions, you can trust it to protect your work too. Switch to TerraSlate and you will never laminate again. Visit TerraSlate.com and make your ideas indestructible with waterproof paper. Okay, Paul. So, this Oxford research that you mentioned before the break, half of our happiness and life satisfaction comes from having rich social networks. Okay, so maybe I want to backtrack a little bit to what happiness truly is. I mean, are we talking about really just connection, or how would you define happiness?
Right. So let's even go back one step further. Yeah. Why even care about happiness? Right? Does maybe your dog cares about happiness, but chimpanzees don't care about happiness. Cockroaches don't care about happiness. Why would it be at all interesting? So from an evolutionary perspective, until recently, it's that this is kind of a epiphenomenon. It's just something that humans did that's not very useful, right? Evolution says all you need to do is survive and reproduce, and then you've been a successful organism.
Right.
But expanding that, what we found in others is that people who are happy, people who have positive mood, who have high energy, they attract others to them. Now, if you attract others to you, you have a chance to find a mate. You have a chance to do projects together, get a job, right? All those things that help us be successful evolutionarily are drawn to that ability to project positive mood. We don't have to do it all the time. We have down times and up times. But people who are generally happy have an advantage in terms of thriving in the broad sense. So thriving means I have consistently positive mood and positive energy, essentially.
What would you say to those people that are now they're right now they're thinking, oh man, that's great. I'm just not wired that way because they're thinking personality theory, personality type linked to happiness, and they're going, I'm not somebody that is curious. I'm not somebody that is outgoing and want to meet people. I just like being at home and reading a book by myself. How would you address that?
For sure. And I'm an introvert, but I spent 8 hours. I teach a leadership course for police every year. Spent 8 hours with 20 cops in a room yesterday. I had so much fun. My voice is hoarse because I've talked for too long, and that is not so. It doesn't skew to introvert extrovert. Certainly, there are people who genetically just have a bigger mood range, but we all need to have connections. We all need to have someone care about us. So even the work that has been done on children who have adverse life experiences, who are abused or neglected, the number one indicator that they will do well as they develop is that one adult cares about them, just one. A grandmother, a pastor, a neighbor said, like, have you eaten? Have you done your homework? That's all you need. So for adults too, you don't need 20 friends. You need one or two or three really good friends. I call these the 3 a.m. friends. You can call it 3 a.m. and go, I'm having a crisis. I need you to come here. If you have a couple of those in your life, you are good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to maybe make this practical, and I mean the science is there, but we need to bring this out of the pages of theory and the evidence and support it with everyday behavior. So you put together this little book of happiness, right? And I love the format, Paul. I mean, it's like talk a little bit about the format because you list 45 virtues as everyday practices, but you back it up with science. So I won't say anymore. Talk about how did you put it together, and what are we seeing here?
Right. So the question for all of us, including us introverts, is how do I strengthen those ties? So what we know from the neuroscience is that I've got to invest in relationships in order to get a return when I want them. Right. So this is like the dinner invitation. Marcel, if you invite me to dinner to your house 3 times, I never invite you out to dinner. At some point you go, Paul doesn't really like me that much, right?
Yeah.
So there are 45 what are called cardinal virtues, the kind of main investments in other people. Virtues are the opposite of like the 7 deadly sins. The 7 deadly sins are all about I'm more important than you, and the virtues say you're more important than me. Great. What does that mean, and how do I act on that to strengthen my relationships? So it's just a set of, for each of those virtues, here's the science, here's the definition, here's what it is. First of all, that's hard, right? What does it mean to be loving? What's it mean to be patriotic? What does it mean to be generous? And then how do I get better at that? And so the term of art in neuroscience, or terms of art, is neurons that fire together, wire together. So in other words, you can strengthen the connections that help you invest in those relationships if you take specific actions and do them. And that's why the playbook in the little book of happiness is, here's something you can do this week. Here's 3 things.
Yeah.
Try to get better at this one virtue. Give it a shot.
Yeah. So basically, you do these pro-social behaviors consistently, and what you're saying is your brain will adapt to being virtuous more often because you're reinforcing those behaviors, which then will boost your happiness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And folks, I'm on the page gratitude. Paul listed compassion, creativity, curiosity, tolerance, patience, even patriotism, which kind of got my my attention. Yeah. And I'm on gratitude. So give you an idea. Paul lists the science behind gratitude, an insight, which is a quotation from someone, past or present in history, or a well-known person. And then the practice, very simple. Number 1, every day for 1 week, again, in gratitude, tell a person you work with why you are grateful for them as a human being. Number 2, keep a gratitude journal for 1 month. Every night before going to sleep, write down 3 things you were grateful for that day. Assess your happiness at the end of the month. And number 3, every day for 1 week, take a walk, and breathe in deeply to smell the environment. Try to identify why this makes you happy. Paul, when I read this, some people are skeptical and go, this is woo-woo stuff. How do you address the skeptics in the room?
Well, as you mentioned in your intro, it also comes with an app that measures your brain activity in real time, second by second, so that you can see how many of what we call these key moments, how many of these highly valuable experiences people have. The app is called SIX, S-I-X, because we've showed in scientific research, you need 6 well-defined high moments where your brain is all in. You're putting all this energy and you're having a heck of a great time. And if that all in happens for high enough and long enough, think of this as a sort of a time series, a squiggle. If that squiggle is really high and lasts long enough, your brain goes, oh, I love doing this thing. So just as an example, Marcel, so a lot of these are things that we don't realize. The reason we need technology is these signals are coming from the very old evolutionary parts of the brain that we're not consciously aware of. So the app links to your calendar and your location. It just tells you, here's the stuff that gives your brain so much value. Now, some of these can be alone. So I write almost every day. I like writing. I will get a key moment sometimes by myself writing. But we find in these data, with over 50,000 observations now, that most key moments are social, right? So I'm engaging with somebody, I'm doing something. So yesterday I mentioned I did this 8-hour leadership course, and I got 3 high-value moments with these cops, right? Teaching them leadership skills, running a workshop. Fun. I like it. It's by the way, it's a very poor use of my time. It's the state of California pays you almost nothing for this, but I feel like, okay, this is service for me, and cops really need help, and they're just fun to teach because, they're non-politically correct. They just need help, right? These are cops who are going to become assistant chiefs and chiefs, and give them some leadership training. Awesome. I'm going to help society a teeny bit by doing that.
Yeah. Okay. Just so I'm clear, out of the 45 virtues, really what science is finding is that we only need 6 high value experiences to, 6 a day, right? To increase our happiness. Right. 6 a day. Right. Okay. And so the app helps us to track. Talk a little bit more about, I'm going to just go ahead and just have you tell us how to get this app rather than wait till the end of the episode. For those people that are like, no, I need to know now. Okay. So, tell us about the app and how to get it.
So first of all, it's free. There's a premium version that has more features. Use it if you want. I don't care. My modest goal, Marcel, is to get 1 billion people on the planet to use our free app. So we are on 6 continents now.
Nice.
So you can find it at your6.com. It's free, App Store, Play Store. The magic of this technology we developed starting in 2017 is that, this is going to shock everybody, your brain is connected to your body and they talk to each other. And one way they talk to each other is through the cranial nerves running through the neck. And we used studies to manipulate this network that values social emotional experiences, which I've called immersion, which is what we talked about in 2022, last time I was on. This immersion network sends signals to the body about the value that it's getting from the experiences you're having. And we can tap into those by applying algorithms to smartwatches and fitness wearables. And so using cloud computing, lots of mathematics in real time, you can see, oh, holy crap, here's what I'm doing right now, right? How much value is my brain getting? And if I ask you, Marcel, like, well, how much do you enjoy the experience you're having right now? What's the baseline compared to your kids, compared to your dog, but the brain has a baseline. It wants to idle because it's so energy hungry to run it at a high rate. So we see this big peak of immersion. It is like, oh, I really enjoyed this thing. So, and why is it 6 high value moments? I have no idea. It just came out empirically. So these data, immersion data, second by second data coming out of your brain, predict mood with 99% accuracy, predict your energy with 98% accuracy. And then we just asked empirically, what happens? Who are the happiest and most energetic people in the world? What does that look like? And then we quantified how much of this you need and used 6 high value moments. So think of this, I call this emotional fitness. I want to be an emotionally fit person. Yeah. And I've got, as you said earlier, I've got to practice these behaviors, primarily social behaviors, to build up my emotional fitness, strengthen those ties, and just be a better human, honestly.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that none of this is, all of this is pointless if you don't actually use the activities that you suggest, and then look at the app to track, to help you to trend upward towards 6 or more of those experiences every day. right?
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
can tell you essentially what the brain values, how it values these experiences. You need two things. First of all, you need to be present, right? If I'm distracted, Marcel, looking around, I'm not going to have a great time hanging out with you.
Hmm.
But first, I've got to really be present. That's associated with the actions of a neurochemical called dopamine. And then second, I have to be emotionally open. I actually have to share my emotional experience with you and vice versa. And that was driven by another neurochemical, oxytocin. So oxytocin and dopamine interact in fairly complex ways. They feed back on each other. That induces electrical activity. And that's what we can capture second by second. So again, 10 years ago, we had to use giant machines to capture this, weeks of processing data. But with cloud computing and some smart mathematics, we're able to bring this to anybody.
Hmm. Paul, what else will practicing these pro-social virtual behaviors do to us and help us with, besides maybe boosting our happiness? Are there other effects?
Yeah, there's two other big effects. One is extending the length of life. So it turns out that happy people live longer. And this is kind of interesting because, again, if that happiness comes from social interactions, think, well, if I'm around people more, by the way, it's not more, it's higher quality. But if I'm around people more, all those germs, I just came back from New York 2 days ago. So I was in New York for 4 days, big conference, shaking hands, 2,000 people at this conference. Should I shake hands? Should I avoid humans? Because, they have all kinds of viruses. Who knows? So first of all, you need people around you. And when you have more social connections and stronger social connections in particular, you get sick less often. And so your health is better and you actually live longer. Happy people live longer. So the funny thing, I think the paradox of all of this is that if I'm an entirely selfish person, I just want to live a happier, longer life. The best way I can do that is to invest in my relationships with other people, to help other people, to serve other people, so that I can get that benefit myself. Because what do humans do? You're a great friend to me. Well, I'm going to reciprocate. You're asking me to dinner. I'm going to ask you back to dinner, right?
Yeah.
That's what a healthy human does. And so, to have these 3 a.m. friends, to have people that you spent so much time with, that you truly love as friends, what's better than that?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's bring this conversation to the realm of leadership and leading teams. Okay, so let's say that I'm a senior manager of a team of 30 or 50. Okay, and maybe I don't have the app. Okay, but I know that some virtuous behaviors I can probably put into practice if I kind of force myself to do it, right? So,
Right.
what practical steps would you advise leaders take to strengthen that air quotes social network on their teams?
So, yeah, so that's a very deep question. Let me try to answer it carefully, but not, with too much detail because it'll take us an hour just to solve that. So, the first is, I think, on a very broad scope, you can lead by love or lead by fear, right? Fear is a great short-term motivator. People get stuff done, but people acclimate to fear very rapidly. But if you lead by love, that is, if you really care about the people, your self-reports, your direct reports, um, people will die for people they love, right? So one is to really build those relationships. And that doesn't mean that you're, holding hands and have people cry on your shoulder all the time, but it does mean that you're investing in relationships. So I worked a lot with Zappos, the online shoe and clothing seller in the early
Yeah.
days, one of the famously happy places to work. Uh, and by the way, they don't even take applications for jobs anymore, but it used to be 30,000 applications per job opening. Like people want to work there. And what do? They have they took over the old city hall. By the way, you can go on the Zappos tour. It's $10 if you're in Vegas. So I recommend people go and check out what they're doing. But they took over the old city hall in Las Vegas, downtown Vegas, near Fremont Street, and it has a big courtyard. And they have wireless, they have couches, they have ping pong tables, they have a cafe. So you can work anywhere, move your laptop around. They have monthly block parties. So they put people on a bus, anyone who wants to go, and they bring them to a big field or whatever. And there's food trucks and drinks and music, and people get to know each other. So the first is ensure that you're actually building these relationships. A friend of mine who ran a couple Fortune 100 tech companies, very healthy guy named Jerry, used to do juice with Jerry. He wasn't a coffee guy, so he had juice. So you could sign up, and anybody in the company once a month could get an hour, like 10 people at once, and have juice with Jerry and just ask him anything. Well, then you see this humanity, right? That this guy who's running this giant company, first of all, smart for him as a leader. He's going to get all that, ground level information that you may not get from a survey. Number one. And number two, these individuals, particularly who are customer facing or in manufacturing, they're creating value directly for your customers. Find out what they're doing. Make sure they know what you're doing. So anyway, there's a couple examples, but building those social relationships is very important. Here's my easy way to do that. I'm a very lazy person, Marcel, right? Lazy means I'm efficient. I want to figure out the most effective ways. That's why I'm in neuroscience. I want to just get right to the brain, figure out how to hack this system. Here's how people can hack it who are leaders. Use an adjective. So normally when we come into work, I see you. Hey, Marcel, how's it going? Good. How are you? Good. Or, hey, Marcel, now I add an adjective. You look happy, sad, worried, tired. I've just opened up this kind of social emotional channel. And you go, yeah, I really am tired. My dog's been sick. I've been at the vet. My kid had the flu. My car didn't start. So I have a graduate student who worked with me named Beth. So that's like 6 years. And now she's the first employee in my company. Beth is wonderful. One day, I want all my graduate students to get married, have babies. I think they should name their first child after me. But, that's just me. Anyway, one day she walks in the lab in the morning and she's like walking on air. And I just used it. I said, hey, Beth, you look so happy. Like, did you fall in love? What's happening? Are you going to get married? And she goes, you know what? I lost 15 pounds. I've been exercising. I'm going to run my first 5K in a couple of weeks. And she goes, I can't believe that you noticed that, right? And I'm like, yeah, you just look super happy. And she has told me over the years how much it meant to her that I saw her as a human being. So takeaway, you have human beings that work with you, not human capital, not machines. They're going to have good days and bad days. And if you recognize that and just open up that channel, you'll absorb so much information, but also signal to them how important they are as humans. And by the way, we're not minting enough new humans, right? We're below replacement fertility, unemployment rates at record lows, and immigration's off the table for a while. So if you have humans working with you, keep them emotionally healthy, keep them physically healthy so they come and return tomorrow to work.
So good. All right. Should we bring back oxytocin a little bit?
We can. Yeah.
So go down memory lane. Yeah.
All this came out of this work I had done, as you know, in the early 2000s on why do we ever trust strangers? Again, the sort of standard view in biology and economics is that if there's resources on the table, I call this caveman economics. Resources good. Me keep resources. Me take from you. But what we find is that humans have long memories. We are able to cooperate very effectively. Even think of this thing I was in New York, 2,000 people, of whom I know two, and I'm having lunch with people, I'm having breakfast, I'm hanging out, I'm exchanging business cards. How do we do that? It's because we are a highly cooperative and reciprocal species, and one of the core components that motivates social intercourse is, in fact, this neurochemical oxytocin that my work was the first to show had these profound behavioral effects. And so knowing where this comes from, knowing what motivates social behaviors, we also know what inhibits it. So one of the inhibitors for that is high levels of stress. And so I do want to create a workplace where people are challenged. Challenge is really good for social connection. I've got to draw on my social resources. It builds trust between individuals. Hey, Marcel, I got this project due tomorrow. I need your help. Can you give me an hour of your time? Oh, now I'm getting to know you, but also I see that you're reliable. I see that I can trust you. And then this work, as you know, was funded by the U.S. Department of Defense and other agencies that sought to give warfighters a new superpower called persuasion. How could we most effectively communicate and try to get people to cooperate with U.S. Values? Let's use words rather than weapons, at least on a first cut, and see if we can do that. So we started a company, Immersion Neuroscience, in 2017 that created this technology so anybody could measure what the brain values to improve marketing, customer experiences, corporate training. But the whole arc of the company was to get to human health and happiness. And so I'm thrilled now to be able to share this with you, with your listeners, that there is a way to quantify the value of the experiences you're having, non-social, social, and just see what's most important for you. And by the way, one more thing. Sorry, I'm on a rant now, but I'm going to keep going.
Go.
What we find when people use this app over a longer period of time, not only does their happiness increase, the app is like your sweet little grandma reminding you, hey, Marcel, go out and see some humans. Don't stay in your basement all day. Go out and do things. So it just reminds you because you're seeing this data come in real time. You see those key moments that you had yesterday, the day before. You go, I should do that again. And then the app has a trained AI assistant that will start to give you advice based on your data. Hey, last week, when you hang out with Paul Zak, you always get a key moment. call Paul up, go grab a cup of coffee, right? Paul's your
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah.
So it'll start, privately just telling you this. So you don't share it with anybody. You can share the number of key moments you're having. So now I can be on this emotional fitness journey with my friends. So the app will let you send them like an emoji, like, hey, my friend Ryan only had one key moment today. I'm going to send him a thumbs up or send him a heart or something like, dude, I care about you. Again, just like those children with adverse childhood histories need one person to care about them, we can actually care about our friends without having to ask weird, awkward questions like, do you feel okay? I can just look at your app, if you trust me, to share the number of key moments you're having and go, oh, great. Or my friend Rich yesterday, I have a friend named Rich who's on we call it the inside circle, the people I really care about to share my data with. Rich had like 10 key moments yesterday. So I texted him. I'm like, dude, what were you doing yesterday? Like, you had the best day ever. Think how nice it is that someone goes, oh, you had a wonderful day, and I know that. Tell me about it, because I'm your friend. I'm invested in you as a human being, as another person. So anyway, that's how oxytocin fit into this. We had to do more research to figure out the role of dopamine and then create technologies around this.
Okay, so does oxytocin have it has a moniker, right? Is it the love hormone, or is that serotonin? I can't remember.
Yeah, sometimes people call it that. It's not a hormone. We're talking about oxytocin in the brain. The hormone is, so most hormones work in the peripheral nervous system.
Okay.
So oxytocin pushes out babies during birth and facilitates milk letdown for breastfeeding. But the innovation we made in our lab was, how do we measure what's going on with oxytocin in the brain? And that's where these behaviors come from. So it is associated with, it's released during sex, for example. So it is associated with these reproductive behaviors. But in humans, we have so many more receptors for oxytocin than any other mammal. So we are acutely sensitive to social emotional experiences. This is why, Marcel, not you and me, because we're too macho, but I've heard that people occasionally cry at the end of movies. Like, what's that about? That's kind of weird, right? So if you're cognitively intact, this is a fictional story with paid actors, but we're so sensitive to that social information. What was that movie with the little robot, Wall-E, right? The little robot thing with one eye, whatever, and we just turned it into a human. Like, we're like, oh, Wall-E died, oh my gosh, right? So we need that social interaction neurologically to stay healthy. Let me flip it around the other way. What we know is that social withdrawal is a very strong predictor of poor mental health and poor physical health. Social withdrawal precedes things like autoimmune disease and heart failure, Parkinson's disease. And so if we're looking at how our brain values social emotional experiences, then we can actually be ahead of the curve. That's why I call this emotional fitness and not mental health. Mental health is like a clinical issue. I don't want to go there. This is really, how do I build up my emotional health? How do I build that emotional fitness so I'm really able to thrive as a human being?
Okay, so this is critical. I'm going down a little bit of a dark path now. Okay, how do we build up our emotional fitness in an age where we are divided? We're in a time of us versus them, and we're not listening. We are taking sides, and it's there's a lot of hate and division in the world right now. So I'm wondering, is it because we are not experiencing more of these pro-social behaviors, which will then release the chemicals we want in our brain for us to bring humanity together?
Wonderful question. And we've actually done a lot of research on this. So I think we've always been divided. We always form tribes and teams. I'm going to see my tribe more often than I'm going to see your tribe. So I'm going to benefit my tribe. It's not that I'm a bad person. It's just I'm trying to save my time and energy. So I think what's different now is we have so much more negative information coming at us. So what we found in published research is if I'm hanging out with my group and my brain releases oxytocin, and then I interact with another group, and we did this zillions of different ways. We did over 1,000 blood draws to measure oxytocin doing this research. You guys, is published. You can just find this. All my published research I put online, so you can find it for free. But if I release oxytocin with my group, so I'm connecting to them, and then I encounter another group, I'll treat them just like they're my in-group. So we can heal these divisions by having stronger social connections. And once we have those strong social connections, oxytocin is such a blunt instrument in your brain that everyone becomes my brother and sister when I've released oxytocin for about a 20 to 30 minute interval. So the thing is, build those social connections. Oxytocin is, we call it anxiolytic. It reduces our anxiety. It's relaxing. By the way, improves the immune system, which is one reason why social behaviors make us healthier. So if I have the strong social ties in my community, it's going to carry over to an extent to other communities.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of an out there question, but I know that we are seeing more evidence of plant medicine, or if you want to call it psychedelics. It's kind of coming into the forefront of our minds now with RFK Jr. maybe advocating for it. Is there a link between those of us that may experiment with plant medicine and experiencing more change in our brain towards pro-social behaviors and doing everything that we want to do as humans to coexist and get along and love each other?
I love this question so much. So the nice thing about having a software company is that people can use it any way they want. I don't have to do all the research myself anymore. I've just created a tool. So we have a number of organizations now using the 6 app in particular with veterans with PTSD. So PTSD, you can think of this as a very high level of anxiety where you pull in, you're not able to connect to other people. So everything from psychedelic therapies to various talk therapies, to these kind of immersive virtual reality therapies. And so those people have not shared their data with me. Those are studies that are ongoing, but I think it's a great way to quantify objectively, not just do you feel better, which I think is important, is your brain now able to open up as opposed to pull in and connect to others? And so spent a lot of time working with veterans, and one thing that PTSD does is inhibits the ability for that veteran to connect to his or her spouse. And so that tends to degrade your quality of life because now your spouse feels isolated, feel like you don't care about them. And so, yeah, if psilocybin does that, or MDMA or ketamine, let's measure that and not just ask that person how they feel, which again is important, but really look at the grand set of experiences they have second by second. This app runs every second in the background all day. You're going to learn so much about yourself. And by the way, these high value moments are not always good things. And that's okay. Just like physical exercise, I went to the gym this morning, I got up early. Just like physical exercise is sometimes a pain in the ass, and as you're tired and it kind of hurts, your muscles get sore. Emotional fitness also requires stretching yourself. So we have a super user in New York State who emails me occasionally. She got a very minor car accident. She goes, "Hey, I looked at my app and I wanted to check on this lady who backed into me. It's an older lady, and I got a key moment. What's that about?" Well, it's important. Your brain is putting a lot of energy into this. Now, you don't want to repeat that, but you're still stretching your ability to be present and emotionally open so that when you're having drinks with friends or hanging out with your spouse, you can do the same thing. Neurons that fire together, wire together.
Okay, I want to bring back the conversation to let's address the CEO in the room, and they fully buy into creating these moments to maybe develop a company culture, a healthy culture founded on these pro-social behaviors. What advice would you give them as a first step?
Right. So we have a number of tech companies in particular using this app, giving this app to their employees as a benefit. So those employees can manage their own emotional fitness and won't get burnt out.
Excellent.
But there's also an enterprise interface that takes anonymized data and asks or shows, are you creating an emotionally healthy workplace? So the data are anonymous, but you can tag it by like location or department. And so, hey, we find that the Seattle office, people are doing great. They're getting 3, 4, 5 key moments a day. And by the way, at work, we're working with other humans, so we tend to get a lot more key moments at work than we do at leisure because we have a goal and we have people depending on us. So we're, putting that energy in. And then, the office in LA, they almost never get key moments there. So what's happening in LA? So it just goes, any business owner is a cheap person. So I'm cheap too, Marcel. Like, just copy what's happening in Seattle. Is it that they have happy hours every Friday? Is it because the leader is a better listener? Is it because they need more training in LA? Like, whatever they're doing in Seattle, just, try to copy and replicate.
Right. All right, Paul, as we wind down here, is there a question that I have not asked that's really important to our listeners?
Yeah, I think the sort of what the hell question, like what is hell the hell does this mean for life in general? So
Hmm.
what we've found in the data is that when you have more key moments, again, often for people working, that's at work, you actually are more satisfied with your lives outside of work. So if I'm really satisfied in my work life, I'm a better parent, I'm a better spouse, I'm a better citizen. So I think there is a sacred duty for businesses and organizations in general to create workplaces where people can really get that satisfaction from working, feel like I'm doing something valuable and important, and then come home with that energy. So with the cops I work with, I say like you're going to get policing is boring, 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 super exciting, boring, boring, boring. You're going to get a bunch of key moments at work, but if you never get a key moment at home because you're so burnt out from your job, that's not sustainable. So if
Hmm.
we want to build sustainable organizations, we need sustainable humans, and sustainable humans are physically fit and emotionally fit.
Hmm. Love it. Love it. Paul, strap on your seatbelt. We have arrived at our speed round. Here we go. Okay. One of the greatest lessons, personal lessons, outside of the science that you have learned in your life.
Um, to put yourself first. What? That sounds like a selfish person. It really, this is putting on your oxygen mask when the plane depressurizes before you help someone else. If you don't invest in yourself, if you don't invest in your physical health and emotional health, you can't be good to anybody else, right? So really focus on getting enough sleep, exercise, sleep, and making sure that you are building up your physical and emotional fitness so you can be of service to others.
Thank you for that important clarification. Okay, if you weren't doing the work that you do now, what would you have chosen as a profession?
This is going to be the weirdest thing. I love landscape architecture. I love to be a landscape architect.
Hmm.
Plants, outdoors, the smells, getting physical and stuff. So I just would be like, give me like 30 acres and let me just make it beautiful. I would love that so much.
That's great. All right, something quirky that nobody knows about you, and now thousands of people are going to know about you.
Right. Hundreds of thousands. I have a Screen Actors Guild card because I've created dialogue for two movies.
Are you going to tell us which?
Let's have to remember, it's been a while. The 7-year engagement and the let's see, one of the Spider-Man movies. It's been a while. So these movies, basically have voice actors that come in and they needed people to create like neuroscience. Some of these were like in neuroscience labs or whatever. And so in a giant studio, and you basically are they tell you what to do, and we need 60 seconds of you talking to someone else, and you have to do kind of voices and by the way, one time I was doing this, one of the voice actors was Kato Kalin. So there's a weird
Oh,
little insight. Very
yeah.
nice guy, seemed fine, chill.
Yeah. Well, funny, a fun fact for me, I'm also listed in the, is it called the IMBD,
Yeah, yeah.
IMDb? Right.
IMDb, yeah.
Yeah, because I was an extra in the remake of War of the Worlds, not the one with Tom Cruise, it was a B movie, Thomas C. Howell. And I
Yeah.
was one of the soldiers. So my scene got cut off. I never made it in the final cut, but I'm in the credits.
You're in the credits. That's so cool. Okay, we'll talk about that next time
Yeah,
we see
yeah,
each
there you
other.
go. All right. Okay, so what science, what research besides your own do you completely geek out on?
I'm really interested in anthropology and what's called ethology. So how humans and animals interact in a variety of settings. So I just got back from Uganda where I was trekking with gorillas. Amazing experience, and spending time with the gorillas and seeing that they sort of recognize you as another primate, and also observing the other humans in my group doing that, really interesting. I mean, I'm just fascinated by behavior in general.
Okay. What's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Wow, that'd have to take off record. Um, yeah, the craziest thing, geez, that's a long list. Um, Yeah, I went tandem skydiving and took my blood before and after for a Discovery Channel show hosted by Morgan Freeman. So that was pretty wild.
That's
I've done
cool.
that like 5 times now. It's a great gig for trusting your life to a stranger. Like, what better way to do that for TV?
Right, right. All right, Paul. The last one is sort of a It's like come full circle here in the age that we are in. What's your biggest hope for the rest of 2025? I mean, there's only 2 months left.
Gosh, that's a great question too. Um, yeah, I have very small hopes. I hope people make one new good friend. You make
Hmm.
wait, that's all you need really. Make one new friend. Meet a neighbor. I was on a podcast run by a psychologist recently. Said, "Oh, I mentioned this," and he said, "Oh yeah, I have a great neighbor, and I see him all the time. Great guy." I'm like, "Have you asked him out for coffee?" He goes, "No." That's the next step, right? You like your neighbor, he likes you. Okay, let's go grab breakfast some morning. Get to know this person, invest in those relationships.
Yeah. And right, right. We have to go against our tendencies now to be suspicious,
Yeah,
and give really extend trust before it's earned. That's I'm borrowing from Stephen M.R. Covey, right? We have to give
hmm,
trust as a gift first
right.
before it's earned, and just put yourself out there a little bit, right? I'm not saying that, go talk to a mass murderer that is out of jail, but I'm just saying, like, like you said, your example of reach across the aisle, extend a hand, be curious, just try to understand someone's perspective, even if it's not your own. Just to come to the middle, just to make a connection with someone else. You don't have to agree
And
with them, but at least you
right.
could at least, understand someone else's perspective.
Yeah, say hello and listen. I practice that by talking to people in elevators. I've been doing this for years. Hi, how you doing? Like in a hotel or whatever. Oh, where are you coming in from? And just practice reaching out all the time so it's not a skill that degrades.
Hmm. All right, you're off the hot seat. Done with the, the
Hallelujah.
speed round. Okay, Paul, we bring it home with two questions, as we do with every guest. So here's the love question. You've been known as the love doctor in the past,
Mhm.
right? That's the label
Right,
somebody tagged on you
right.
years ago. So how do we love? How do we lead with love and care day in and day out in a practical, actionable way?
I'm a math guy, so I think of this as an equation. So I try to apply a simple equation to my life that I call love plus. I try to ensure that every interaction I have adds love to the world, doesn't remove love. And I try to reflect on that when I'm going to sleep. Like, did I actually add love to the world? I think that's a simple rule. Treat people kindly. People, unless you just have to have some problem with them. I call this API, assume positive intentions.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Paul, bring us home. What's that one thing we can take away from this conversation?
Say hi to your neighbor. Ask them out for coffee. Simple.
Mm. Well, the book again is called The Little Book of Happiness. There it is. And Paul, bring us back to the app and how people can find that, and where can they go to find out more about you, maybe even book you for a speaking gig.
Absolutely. If you're listening to this, you must be a very interesting, good person. So I'm happy to reply to emails. If you're watching on video, there's a QR code on the screen. You scan that and you'll get the app for free, or go to your6.com. You're the number six. You can find me at that website or getimmersion.com. And I love questions. So, Marcel, thank you so much for having me on. What a great conversation. The time went just like that.
It's so much fun to talk to you. I always learn new things. I mean, how often do we get to speak to a bona fide neuroscientist like you? So, yes, thank you for your wisdom, Paul.
Thank you.
All right. And we want to thank our sponsor today, TerraSlate, for making this episode possible. TerraSlate Waterproof Paper is waterproof, rip-proof, recyclable, and prints through any laser printer. Trusted by the NFL, U.S. military, and top restaurants, TerraSlate performs in the toughest conditions on water or land. Visit TerraSlate.com and order a sample pack today. For Dr. Paul Zak and yours truly, remember, in the end, love always wins. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Love in Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, don't forget, the future of leadership is love in action. Believe it, practice it, and watch your leadership and business flourish.